The Lost Caverns of Ixalan is a return to the exciting land of dinosaurs, pirates, merfolk, and many others themed in an Aztec and Mayan style. This set gives us some amazing art treatments and some great new themed effects. Explore is a returning keyword, but now comes with its own token. Introducing map tokens. These artifact tokens allow you to pay 1 mana, tap and sacrifice, to have target creature explore, but only at sorcery speed. Discover is like Cascade, but if you decide you don't want to cast the spell, you can put it into your hand instead. This also has a set number. Unlike Cascade, the number dictated in the ability is the CMC of the spell that you're able to cast. Descend cares about how many permanents are in your graveyard. And finally, we have Craft, which allows you to fuse certain card types from your graveyard or in play together to transform into new, powerful threats. What is up, Pauper players? Welcome back to another Salt and Pauper Saturday video, and today we are going to go over the brand new Caverns of Ixalan set. We have the full set released now, and we're going to be looking at the top 5 best new commons for the Pauper format, as well as some honorable mentions. So let's dive right in. All right, first off, we have a couple honorable mentions. First off, we have Tectonic Hazards, the first honorable mention, as it is a functional reprint. This is a 1 red mana sorcery that says it deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. This is an End the Festivities variant, but is a welcome reprint to Pauper for sure. Next up, we have Basking Capybara. This is a green 2-drop, which is unusual for these lists. If you've been following along for a few sets, you know that green really does not have a whole lot going on lately. But this is a 1/3 Capybara for 2, green and colorless, but it has Descend 4, and it gets +3/+0 as long as there are 4 or more permanent cards in your graveyard, which is huge. This is a 4/3 stat line for 2 mana. Line this up next to some Burning Tree Emissaries, maybe some aggressive 1-drops, you know, in a red-green stompy deck with some Rancors, and this could really pump out power quite quickly. Now, you will have to find out how to get 4 permanent cards in the graveyard. I suspect it will come with something along the lines of Ash Barrens or Elephant, or maybe some Generous Ents and some of the other cycling creatures, but I could be wrong. There could be something else used for this. Next up is Mephitic Draught. This is a 2-mana artifact for black colorless. You get when it enters the battlefield or is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you draw a card and lose 1 life. This is a black Ichor Wellspring variant that loses 1 life at each instant, so it is strictly worse, especially because it costs colored mana to do this effect. Now, that being said, it is still a very close variant to Ichor Wellspring, and Ichor Wellspring is played everywhere. So in decks that need more Ichor Wellsprings, they may see a couple copies of this card as appealing. I personally think that it will be more aligned to line up next to Chromatic Stars and things like that, and Ichor Wellspring will stay, but who's to say? This could surprise me. And then last but not least, honorable mention goes to Relic's Roar. This is a 1 blue mana instant that says until end of turn, target artifact or creature becomes a dinosaur artifact creature with base power and toughness 4/3 in addition to its other types. Now, you might be saying we've seen effects like this before. Why is this one special? Well, this in combination with a card called Embiggen that cares about card types makes Glistener Elf or some of the other Phyrexian infect creatures become 10 power with just 2 mana of spells. If you use Relic's Roar to set them to 4/3 base toughness, it adds 2 card types. It adds artifact and dinosaur, or card type and creature type. It adds dinosaur and artifact to the card, which turns Embiggen into a very powerful +6/+6 for 1 mana. I definitely think this is a dark horse that people are undervaluing, but I expect it to at least be played with to see if Infect might get some use out of it. Now on to the top 5 as a whole. In the 5th spot, we have the Discover lands. Now I am assigning this spot to all 5. I don't think any one color is better than the others. I expect all of them to see some testing. We'll see what shakes out to be good enough in the metagame. I suspect the black ones might be, just because slower black control decks have been on the uptick lately. But we shall see. This is a land with a cave type, so it is a cave land, and it enters the battlefield tapped. It can tap for a color of its chosen alignment, and for 4 and a color of that alignment, you can tap and sacrifice the land to discover 4. Now, you are only able to activate this as a sorcery, but it allows you to exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card with that mana value 4 or less. You may cast it without paying its mana cost or put it into your hand, and you put the rest on the bottom in any order. Sorry, in a random order. These lands are quite good. This is probably one of the best solo color land cycles that we are likely to see in Pauper for a very long time. In terms of value, this is very, very strong. Now, while the format is very fast, so I'm not sure if these will be fast enough to keep up. 5 mana is a lot for a random hit, especially because they don't have a basic land type, so you can't like use this in, for instance, Jund Cascade, because it's not a forest, so it can't be untapped by Arbor Elves. I do definitely expect people to play with these, and we'll see what happens, but I think some of them will probably find homes. Number 4 slot is Tithing Blade. This is Chainer's Edict, but on a land. You make it bounceable. This card plus the newly printed Endless Nightmare from Wilds of Eldraine are really pushing the boundaries of what core Skyfisher value looks like in Pauper. Combine that with Omen, and all of a sudden you have recurring Skyfishers that also can deal damage or discard cards or sacrifice creatures, and that deck's engine really starts to look very appealing. Currently, Synth is still the king with Skyfisher, but that may be closer in value if these ETB black permanents find a home. Looking at a recurring Chainer's Edict is very, very good. You may be asking what the flip side of this card is. Maybe that'll set it over the top. Unfortunately, you are going to be disappointed. For a whole 5 mana and crafting with a creature, you get a generic artifact that just deals 1 damage and you gain 1 life each turn. It's not good. You're never going to flip it. But man, that sacrifice ability is very good, and I expect it to be flickered or bounced quite often. I think this card is another one that's sweeping under people's radar because the backside is so bad, but that 2 mana front drop is the real deal. In the number 3 spot, we have Greedy Freebooter. This is a card akin to Shambling Ghast, that while not quite as versatile because you don't get to choose which mode, it's definitely powerful. Getting a treasure and scrying 1 is huge. I expect this card to definitely see play in anything that was running Shambling Ghast. I think that this card is quite powerful, and I expect it to find a home in something. I'm not sure what that something will be yet, maybe a new deck, but very, very powerful effect, and I look forward to testing with it. Next up, we have Fanatical Offering. This is a 2 mana instant that joins the Deadly Dispute lineage of sacrifice a creature or artifact to draw 2 cards and get an additional effect. In Deadly Dispute's instance, you get a treasure. In Reckoner's Bargain, you gain some life. And in Fanatical Offering, you get one of those new tokens I was mentioning earlier, a map token. This card is quite powerful, but I still think that Deadly is king. It is the best one of these effects, and Reckoner's Bargain's life gain is going to keep it in the black control list because it is a primary stabilization tool. However, The ability of this card to generate another artifact similar to the treasure token that Deadly Dispute is creating, so that you can keep chaining them together without sacrificing additional material, is definitely not something to overlook. I expect that alone will carry this card into competitive viability, but we'll see where it actually makes the cut. I think that most times you're going to run Deadly and Reckoners, but we shall see. Some lists may be cutting Reckoners for this card. And in the top spot, before we get there, make sure you go down below and hit the subscribe button, drop me a comment, let me know that you got to this part in the video, and predict what you think the number 1 card is. No cheating. Are you done? All right, the number 1 card is the one we all wanted. It is Goblin Tomb Raider. Lara Croft herself is a Goblin Pirate. This is a 1/2 for 1 red, and as long as you control an artifact, it's +1/+0 and has haste. This is another great low to the ground aggro creature for red in Pauper. I mean, can this deck get better? Honestly, at this point, it's cutting good cards for better cards, and the deck is at capacity. I don't even know if this makes the cut, but it probably does. We are certainly going to be seeing some testing with this card. Line it up next to Synthesizer, Kuldotha Rebirth, and you've got some very, very powerful aggressive early synergies. And once again, this card proves controlling an artifact is not a real drawback in Pauper. But that does it for this week's video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought of my top 5 down below and what you expect to see play out of the new set. If you have any Dark Horse picks or picks that you thought I missed, hit me down in the comments. And as always, guys, make sure you join the Discord so we can build the Pauper community and chat. Thank you so much for watching and spending your Saturday with me as usual. Goodbye forever unless I see you next time. Peace.